Well, in your latest World Cup news, Egypt have bowed out of the 2018 FIFA World Cup without a win in 3 group matches. They lost 2-1 to Saudi Arabia in their final group match. Egypt skipper Mohamed El-Hadary became the oldest player in World Cup history at 45. The affair started well and took the lead in the 22nd minute through Mohamed Salah. El-Hadary then saved a penalty in the 41st minute for Egypt, but the Saudis would get another penalty on the stroke of half-time, this time converted by Salman Al-Faraj. Saudi Arabia then got the winning goal in added time through Salim Al-Dosori. Meanwhile, Uruguay beat hosts Russia 3-0 in the other Group A match. The 2010 semi-finalists scored 2 goals in the opening half. Star player Luis Suarez scored a 10th-minute free kick for the opening goal. Denis Cherchev then scored an own goal in the 23rd minute. Edinson Cavani then sent home a rebound in stoppage time for the 3rd goal. Now Uruguay top the group on 9 points after 3 wins and will now face the second team from Group B. Hosts Russia are second with 6 points and will tackle the best team in that group. Saudi Arabia and Egypt head home with 3 and no points respectively in 3rd and 4th place. Well, joining us for more on the 2018 FIFA World Cup is Dan Williams. He's live for us in Moscow. Dan, another loss for Egypt in Russia, meaning they leave without a point. What will the Pharaohs take away from this year's tournament?
Well, the easy answer is probably not a lot. I mean, yes, you can look at it and say, well, this is the first time they've qualified for a World Cup finals for 28 years. And yes, they almost took Uruguay to a point without the attacking talents of Mo Salah, who was injured and out of that first game. So there's a couple of positives there, if you like. But really, this was an Egypt side that was expected to really push Uruguay, who were the top seeds in the group, to really push Uruguay, if you like, to almost that top spot. And it just hasn't worked out for them to finish the tournament, given the other sides in that group. Admittedly, Russia are the hosts, but the way that they were swept aside by Russia, certainly in that second half, really underlines just the disappointment amongst Egyptian fans. And as I say, very difficult to see the positives. There's even the chance now of Mo Salah retiring from international football. So you have to look at it and go, well, will they be better in 4 years? Or is this a missed opportunity? And you really have to say it's the latter. This defeat to Saudi Arabia really kind of rams home, really, I suppose, just how disappointing this performance was on the whole for the thousands of Egyptian fans who came here to travel to watch their team. And they expected a lot of success from them, just to be undone. It's hugely disappointing, I think, for Egypt.
And of course, Moroccan fans also facing some disappointment. They have their final match against Spain, but it will not save them from having to go home. How might they approach this 3rd fixture?
Yeah, for Morocco, it's a slightly different story. They performed well in their 2 games. You know, they almost did very well against Portugal, and you know, the game against Iran really was where it all came undone for them. Really, when you're in a group with Portugal and Spain, you know, you have to win that game, and they just didn't, and that will really cause nightmares for the players and for Hervé Renard for many years to come. There's no doubt about it. For Hervé Renard, the coach, well, really it's about trying to instill that this is a game where you can really end the World Cup on a high, to restore some pride in the shirt and some honour, and to really try and, as I say, trying to bring some respect back to Moroccan football. Certainly it deserves it. Their performances are much better than the nil points that they've managed to pick up so far. So if they can at least get a draw or perhaps even a shock win, then it really would at least put a bit of a silver lining on their World Cup campaign.
And that silver lining would of course apply to North Africa overall. They seem to have not performed well at this World Cup. What do you think the main reasons for this might be?
Well, for really Africa teams, and you have to include Asia teams in this as well, you kind of have to look at it, and there is this potential possibility of just one team from these 2 continents making it through to the knockout rounds. The Japan-Senegal group will throw one out there, but the likes of Nigeria and Iran still have a lot to do if they're going to join them. If it turns out that is the case, that only one team from these 2 continents turns into makes it through to the last 16, then there has to be questions for world football as to whether enough is being done to develop grassroots and other systems in order to provide a much greater, wider net of quality players. Of course, the talent is there, the Mo Salahs and others that have performed not just at this tournament but at previous tournaments. So there's clearly the talent there, but you have to look at it and go, with the World Cup expanding to 48 teams, the two continents cannot afford to be left behind. It cannot just be Europe, South America, Central America, with other teams there making up the numbers. So really some serious questions need to be asked going forward. Indeed.
Well, of course, Uruguay top Group A after beating Russia today, but they are in a tough group with Spain, Portugal and a very determined Iran. Do you think this might be the toughest challenge yet?
Yeah, we still, as you say, have to find out who they're actually going to face. But what they've shown today really is that they still have a strike force that would be the jealousy of any other team here. So that's the key element. They have goals in them. They started slowly, against the likes of Saudi Arabia and Russia, but now that they are through, you can't really argue with 3 straight wins, and the likes of Suarez and Cavani now really showing and underlining their class. So it really bodes well for them. If it does turn out to be either Spain or Portugal in that last 16 game, then that really will be one of the highlights of that particular round. So certainly there's a lot to look forward to in terms of whether this is the time. Of course, 4 years ago we had the Luis Suarez bite and everything else. So this really is the time where maybe this Uruguay side can potentially go on and maybe match, as you say, the 2010 result where they got to the semi-final. So certainly this is a team that looks like they're just starting to peak at the right time.
Well, Dan Williams, thanks so much for keeping us up to speed live for us there in Moscow.